What was your why are you booing me? I'm right moment? I was working on a team of people building a race car. I told them a part that was technically strong enough should be built heavier to handle shock loads from bad track conditions. I got told I was a moron and it would be fine, someone else ran the numbers and it would be fine. So I built the parts, put them on the car, and lo and behold it broke and the car ended up on its roof. You'd think that would be validation of my opinion, and people would agree that I was right. Not how it happened. I was the asshole because I built them, so it was my fault. Me saying that Germany has a coastline, and everyone in class, including my teacher, disagreeing. Still remember it over. I had basically the same thing happen when everyone else in my class insisted that Africa wasn't attached to any other land and was actually a giant island. My response was, then why did they need to build the Suez Canal? That seemed to stump them. I used to be a hockey ref, so all the fucking time. Ref, you suck. I've had many booed moments, but this is a more recent one. In my science class we were watching a few documentaries about the US space program, and the topic of pollution came up with fuel consumption, and in the midst someone asked about where the parts of the rocket go once they are abandoned by the spacecraft. I commented how it just falls and NASA pretty much just hoped that it didn't fall on people. One of the reasons they launch out of Florida or a Cape is so the parts end up in the water and not hitting civilization. But nobody believed me, since it would be then that NASA is polluting the ocean. In second grade I joined the robotics club. One day we were learning about how an animal's bones affect the way animals move, and the teacher asked give me examples about animals with spines. I said snakes. She said snakes are like worms and lack spines. Sounds like the teacher didn't a spine either, since she prob didn't verify or admit she's wrong. That concentration camps and extermination camps weren't the same thing under the Nazis. Americans liberated concentration camps but never an extermination camp, as extermination camps were all in the East. I guess that really pissed off a lot of people when I said it. Here in Egypt they don't teach you much about the WW other than, there was a war in Europe between a bunch of European assholes who were all different degrees of evil and dragged all the rest of the world into it. The Allies won, and as compensation for Germany's crimes decided to give Palestine to the Jews. As a kid I was thoroughly confused as to why the Palestinians suddenly got mixed up into all this, but that's what they taught us. Also, I don't remember a single time World War I was even mentioned in school. Shit, they didn't even mention it when they were telling us about World War II. Me, in science class at middle school, saying that water expands when it's heated up, and everyone including my science teacher saying I was wrong and that water only expands when it freezes and becomes ice. Water has its maximum density at 4 degrees. It expands both cooling and heating from that point. Me telling grade 11 university high school students it's not unrealistic to know basic conversion factors, i.e. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. Edit. I should clarify, which is gonna make this that much worse. This is in Canada, where the metric system is a thing. My class didn't believe me, teacher included, but he admitted later that he was wrong, when I said that 1/3, of the English language come from Normandic French. Another time when I said that the wireless communication protocol's name, Bluetooth, come from a king of Denmark that was called Bluetooth Freak them, I was right all along. See. I forgot Pluto on my list of planets in 3rd grade. Got a B+ instead of an A, should have gotten extra credit. Who's laughing now, mother effers? Was working for a political org during an election year. Got a file from another office and they wanted me to run my standard scripts to get them a final direct mail address file. Asked the other office if they wanted me to correct any of the addresses and they told me to absolutely not change any of their data because it was good. Told them that I really felt like their data needed to be checked and was told by their office, their management and my management that I should just do as I'm told. In the end, apartment building offices throughout the state received several hundreds of pieces of direct mail from the org. I knew their file didn't have apartment numbers listed for anybody, but I wasn't allowed to change it. If a drunk woman doesn't have the agency to consent to it, then a drunk man doesn't have the agency to consent to it either. Does this mean 2 drunk people having at it is technically double rape? Sunday dinner at my aunt's house and my cousin made chicken and she asked everyone for their honest opinion on it and everyone's saying it's great and this and that. And she gets to me and says, "What do you think, you/Fulton Holmes?" And I said it's a little undercooked but I'll live. And everyone was pissed. Wow. A lil rude there, really? Etc. I'm like, you asked me for my honest opinion and she said yeah well you didn't have to be an asshole. I'm thinking no, she didn't just call me a fucking asshole in front of everybody. I said I was half joking and my uncle put his hand on my shoulder and said just stop, it was awkward the rest of the night. SMH. On r/personal finance, an 18-year-old was asking if they should take out a $50,000 student loan. They didn't need it to pay for college, parents paying, but interest was 1%. Everyone was saying that he should take the loan and invest it, since the market typically returns well above 1% and they could make money on it. I got downvoted to hell for saying that. At age 18, they have no clue if they will be responsible with that kind of money, and there is a big risk that they will end up spending a lot of it on things they don't need. People tore me apart for thinking that someone shouldn't make a great business decision for psychological reasons, but I saw plenty of people in college make the mistakes that I mentioned. Better to avoid the debt if they can. A teacher in biology GCSE was discussing a food pyramid of a river habitat, and she claimed that 10 osprey were at the top of the food chain. I pointed out, "Miss, I think that says 1 osprey." She snarled and said fine. Everyone, Anon thinks he knows better than me, so now it's 1 spree. The whole class groaned and were muttering as they had to cross out what they'd written and rewrite it, and people on my table were giving me evils and telling me to be quiet. Utterly ridiculous that I even passed that subject. I'm an absolutely idiot, but I do have brief moments of intelligence, I swear, and one of them was my 3rd grade teacher tried to teach us fractions literally using the Monty Hall problem and jelly beans, and kept shaming me when I got it right. The Monty Hall problem is a bit of a mindfuck, but it's essentially this: if you're on a game show with 3 doors, 2 of which have a goat behind it and 1 of which had a car, picking it right the first time has odds of 1/3. If the host opens one of the doors revealing one of the goats, and asks if you want to switch your door pick, staying with your original door has odds 1/3, but switching is half, shifting the entire equation. This is a mindfuck but it's true. And I found out later that teacher kept making fun of me for saying it when weirdly I was actually right. Going to haunt me forever. Over the summer before 2nd grade my father took me to the Detroit Historical Museum where I learned that Detroit, like Chicago, had a huge fire that destroyed much of the city. The first day or so of class, we had to tell everyone what we did during the summer. I share that we went to the museum and I learned about the fire in Detroit. The teacher told me that it was Chicago that had the fire and I was wrong. As a 2nd grader I didn't know how to handle an adult being wrong, so I started crying in front of the class. Later that day at recess some of the kids were teasing me for crying, so I hit one of them pretty hard. I got in trouble for starting a fight and was sent to the office. Things spiraled from there and that is how I got 5 to 7 on an Alabama chain gang. I was right though, damn it. When I was in 1st grade, I said that electricity can be gained via water, hydropower. Everyone started laughing at me until my teacher said, "He is right." The whole class went silent. I mean, this is Reddit. Who here hasn't frequently said something that is factually unimpeachable just to be downvoted to hell?